Hi, I'm Emily, and this is my response to the third chapter of Call's book, Why Peace Fails, and this covers the two civil wars in Liberia and in the 90s and what Call believes were the causes of it. So Call believes that both civil wars, but specifically the first, fit more grievance-based arguments rather than economic-based arguments, because Liberia, ever since the implementation of imperialism, has had most of its many ethnic minorities being brutally repressed. And so Call argues that that repression, combined with their ruler, President Taylor's exclusionary behaviors, created the perfect series of events for civil war to begin. And I agree with this interpretation of events. I think that while obviously economic factors are going to be important because Liberia does have a host of natural resources, I don't think that it's as important as these grievance-based issues in Liberia. However, what I don't agree with in this chapter is part of Call's interpretation of the peacemaking process after the First Civil War. Call argues that third-party involvement was a very important part of Taylor agreeing to have peace discussions, which led to the rebel forces agreeing to talk with him, leading to peace. But one thing I don't agree with is Call argues that Taylor being indicted for war crimes by neighboring nations, such as Sierra Leone, was a big part of this. I just don't see that. He can be indicted as much as he wants, but at the end of the day, these foreign nations can't do anything directly to Taylor. So I just don't agree that that was a deciding factor in the peacemaking process. It just doesn't seem that important. The next part of the chapter discusses the Second Civil War in Liberia, which began in 1996, and basically small-scale rebel groups had aid from Guinea and Sierra Leone mainly, and they were doing a lot of small-scale attacks, but did many of these, and they were basically over time gaining a lot of territory outside of Liberia and within Liberia itself. And because these rebel groups were being so aided by surrounding nations, they were so successful. And again, he was indicted for war. President Taylor was indicted for war crimes by neighboring nations, and he was feeling a lot of pressure from the UN, so he fled Liberia to Nigeria, and this allowed for true peace talks to be had and for peace accords to be signed. And obviously there wasn't peace immediately in Liberia. It took many years, but many agree that the end of the Second Civil War in Liberia was the first step in this process. So the final part of this chapter is dedicated to discussing the exclusionary behaviors that President Taylor had that caused the Second Civil War, and many are listed. And just for example, Call discusses how Taylor's political oppression of his political opponents was so inflammatory because the people of Liberia felt that they weren't ever going to have any true representation because the people that they felt would truly represent them never had a real opportunity to truly have a chance of running the nation. The only thing I don't like about this is that he kind of doesn't show any order of significance. I think he should have explicitly said, X factor and Y factor were the most important. X and Y behavior was the most important. He didn't do this. It's still a good section of the chapter. On the whole, I really liked this chapter. I didn't know anything about the Liberian Civil War before I read this, and it was actually really enlightening, and I had a good time reading it, and I hope you enjoyed this video.